All right, welcome back to the Sam Sorbo Show. I want to talk about this article that's up on the Blaze called Childhood Interrupted, Ruining Young Lives Will Not Quell Our Existential Fears. In a previous episode, we were discussing the idea that, that we no longer value children and that we're willing to sacrifice our children. And in fact, I mentioned that I had just done an episode on Epic TV on my show, School's Out with Sam Sorbo, which I encourage you to go tune into and subscribe to, please, and share. And I'm getting great feedback on it, especially this recent episode called Sacrifice, where I make the case that really the best sacrifice you can make is for your children. Whatever you like, you should be looking to sacrifice for your children, because what we fail to understand these days is that the mathematical equation that we've been taught is wrong. That when you sacrifice something, you lose. That's wrong, which is weird. It's like, wait, but mathematically, doesn't that make sense? No, in fact, it doesn't. And the reason that I say that is because you make a choice of whether to go out to dinner or not go out to dinner. Both choices involve a sacrifice. What you're doing is you're valuing and you're making the least painful sacrifice. That's all. It's the least painful sacrifice. And so as parents, we think that the least painful sacrifice would be send our kids to school and pick up the pieces later, because kids are resilient and they'll work it out, and that we're not actually sacrificing much. We're just gaining time from me time, and I can go do my yoga class, and I can, and the kids will get an education. This is sort of the grand bargain of our culture, of our society. And it's not paying back. It's not panning out. It hasn't been for at least a decade or two. It's demonstrably untrue. We're not getting in exchange the thing that we thought we'd get. And so then we have to reevaluate. It's sort of like, it's $60,000 for this car, and you think that you're getting, I don't know, a BMW, a Tesla, but you're not getting a Tesla. You're getting a bicycle. You're getting a one-seater, two-wheeled bicycle, and you're going, but I thought I signed up for a Tesla, and the answer is, but that was 12 years ago. The deal changed over the 12 years. You're only getting a bicycle now. And it's only now that parents are going, well, wait a minute. We were told we were getting Teslas. And at the same time, they don't understand that they sacrificed not just $60,000. They sacrificed a lot more than the $60,000. So this article comes up, and it starts by saying, in 2020, I watched, first with disbelief, then shock and horror, as schools around the world closed and children were masked and isolated. I could not understand what was happening or why. The data was clear. COVID-19 was not a significant threat to children, far less so than the risks we already tolerated every day from sports or car rides, swimming, or even from the freshly verboten flu. Like, you're not allowed to talk about the flu anymore. Uh-oh. Well, we'll see where this goes. By the way, yeah, did I mention this is off the Blaze? Okay. So there's a chart here, the top 15 causes of death for 19-year-olds and under. COVID's not on it. So how were we not all on our knees with gratitude that the virus did not take children with a fraction of the frequency with which it took adults, mainly over, aged adults, let's say, right? The deaths of children from COVID, although undeniably tragic, are exceedingly rare. And so we drop down to this. He talks about this idea that, we just have to sacrifice the children for the benefit of the society as a whole. So they have to wear masks. And I would put to you, it's not about the masks. I mean, it's not about the health. Sorry, it's not about health. It's something much more sinister. But that's just me. What do I know, right? I'm just an individual. He writes this: in the pre-2020 world, the welfare of children was a universally accepted, although not always perfectly practiced, priority. The importance of nurturing young people was not up for debate. And in fact, I don't know if you remember this, but they used to have kids working in coal mines until Mother Jones came along and said, well, this simply won't do. These young children shouldn't be working in coal mines. And so she organized them into our first labor union. Our first labor union was fighting on behalf of children. It was a valiant fight. It was a valid cause. The importance of nurturing young people was not up for debate. Adults intuitively sacrifice, there's that word, to ensure that kids had what they needed to grow and thrive. Of course, some children had more resources than others, but the underlying value was the same. On the whole, and up until that moment in history, kids came first. These weren't just feelings, they were facts. Tending to children followed the science. And then something in the ethos changed. In this world in which we now find ourselves living, that once sacred order is inverted. Children must be restricted to protect the old. They're defining milestones and experiences. Your graduation. No, not this year. Even though COVID's not a threat to you. Not this year. Protect the teachers? What are we doing? Their defining milestones and experiences are capriciously delayed and canceled by people who already experienced them. I love that word, capricious. It basically means just haphazardly, just for whim and whimsy. Kids' faces and airways are obscured to alleviate the anxiety of the unmasked adults around them. Well, I don't know that the adults are unmasked. Children's value, which was once predicated on their role as the literal future of humanity, has been perverted, now centering on their utility as shields for the elderly. They're regarded as vectors of disease. They're shamed for putting adults in danger by daring to openly breathe or talk in public. And so this writer goes on to talk about losing a child and some other things, but we don't need to go into that. I just want to make the case that we're sacrificing the children. We ought to be sacrificing ourselves for the children. And then there's this story. 2 Florida boys, aged 13 and 14, were arrested after allegedly plotting a Columbine-style shooting attack. They had amassed guns, ammunition, knives. 13-year-old and 14-year-old. And they detained the two. There was somebody who said, hey, I think one of them has a gun. Turned out they in their locker. It turned out that didn't pan out, but they did find the cache of weapons. They're being held 21 days in a secure juvenile detention. They're going under mental health evaluations. But the mother of one of them appeared in court and defended her son. She said, he's just a little boy. He didn't think this was really serious. He didn't think they were serious. then why all the guns? And of course, Marceno is the local sheriff. He said this could have turned disastrous. We were 1 second away from a Columbine here. We stopped them in the planning stages. True. The teens were well known to authorities who had been to their houses previously nearly 80 times. So it's not like these kids are. Anyway, Lee County Superintendent Ken Savage said the students who came forward with the information may have saved lives. He also said students were safe at all times. All the threat assessment and emergency response training made a difference in the outcome of this incident. But I love that. Students were safe at all times. No, they weren't. That's why you had to mitigate the threat. It's like students were safe at all times. There was a guy pointing a gun at them, but we took out the guy to keep the students safe. So they were safe all the time. No, they weren't. Not to mention, what about the 2 students who are now in custody? How safe were they? Oh, they were safe from shooting themselves. Maybe, maybe not. But they certainly weren't safe. Because if they were safe, this incident would not have happened. And then the principal, Dworzanski. I commend the students who came forward to report the threat. See, they recognized that there was a threat. Therefore, the students were not safe. You idiots. I'm sorry. They lie to you parents. They lie. They lie every day. They lie. And you sit there and you take it. You're like, oh yeah, the students were safe. Sure. No, they weren't. That's why they had to take care of the threat. A threat implies a lack of safety. And so the principal, and by the way, this guy is in charge of educating children. This idiot is in charge of educating children. And by the way, I'm being kind when I call him an idiot because I think he's just an idiot. I don't necessarily attribute malice. He says, I commend the students who came forward to report the threat and the quick action of the staff. True enough. The safety of our students and staff is at the core of what we do. I thought what you did was education. Can we not just for a moment, just step back and think logically about these things? Can't we? This is the Sam Sorbo Show. Thanks for tuning in.